Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I am a Bereavement Support Specialist. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Lisa. It's so nice to see you again, Lisa. Turning up my volume here a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I'm Susan Capurso. I'm an end-of-life doula, but I spend a lot of my time these days doing legacy work. A legacy specialist, so you can reach out to me anytime to talk more about that. I want to thank you and welcome you for dropping in our video today. And today is a little tender subject, especially for one of your co-hosts here who has been recently going through something, and you'll hear more ahead. But the video today is all about when they don't understand your grief. So, welcome back to the channel. And today we're touching on a subject that many of us face during the grieving process, yet few of us discuss it openly. Um, when those closest to us don't understand our path through grief. And that happens often, okay? So when we lose someone we love, the world shifts beneath us, right? We all know that. Everything changes, our daily routines, our future plans, even the sense of our own self, which we all know personally. And while we're navigating this unwanted reality that we're going through, we often face something that can feel just as challenging. And it's when there are family members and loved ones who, despite their best intentions, disagree with our feelings or decisions. So you might, the things you hear, but it's the actions that the things that they do as well. So you might hear things like, it's been 6 months, shouldn't you be moving on? Or your loved one wouldn't want you to be this way. Perhaps they would question why you're keeping certain possessions or haven't cleaned out the closet. Or maybe they think you're grieving too much, or maybe not enough, or simply not the right way. So today we're going to talk about this delicate dance, okay, that we do in the grieving process and honoring the love and concern behind your family members' input while protecting your own unique grief journey. We're going to explore some practical strategies as well for setting boundaries without burning bridges, because this is definitely something that can happen. We'll talk more about that. And ways to help others understand that while we all share a relationship with the person who's gone, each of our grief journeys is uniquely our own. And I know this isn't something new to your ears right now, anybody who's listening in, because we hear this in general, even if we don't have a lot of people in our own families that have passed away, we hear everybody grieves in their own time. You know, there are a couple common phrases used. Um, but when it comes to other friends and family, not thinking you're behaving correctly or wanting to interject their own feelings, we got to figure out a way not to put walls up, to figure out what those boundaries might be, and to get through this together. So,
Mm,
Lisa, I know this is
mm.
a really touchy subject um, for you, especially when dealing with a loved one this week.
Yeah,
And do you want to explore that first
sure,
before we go?
sure. Here I am on the other side. I do this work and I help groups and I help people, but I'm on the other side now. And my dear cousin died, I guess about 6 months ago, after a long fight, real fight with a terrible illness. And she absolutely wanted to see her granddaughter get bat mitzvah. That was very important to her. And she actually asked Sloan, do whatever you need to do to keep me alive. And she lived to see that. And this was the 1 year anniversary of that bat mitzvah. This was the last time I had seen her. Very close to her, first cousin, and her husband and her two sons. Holidays together and lots of memories together.
Let's try and not go in too
Oh,
much
sorry.
detail for
Sorry.
privacy
Just
reasons,
want
right?
just wanted to give you a sense. And so I initially, after the funeral and all memorial service, I reached out to them to, to the relatives and all. Just let them know that I'm around, that we have this YouTube in case they wanted anything. For the sons, I contributed to a book, recovering from the loss of a parent. So I really understood. And my father died when I was only 30. And, he was only 57. So I really understood. And I just said to them, listen, great book, just because it's all our stories. It's no advice. It's just stories. That's all. So I let it lay. But I have contacted my cousin, her husband, just reaching out a couple times, especially for Passover. He's very religious. And he just made it clear to me that he is really done with his life. He was invited to many, many Passover things from friends. And he says his life is basically over. If it were up to him, he'd be laying right next to her, be next to her, and that's it. But he knows there's an obligation to his children and his grandchildren to be around. And so, again, I've reached out just a couple, not crazy, just a couple of times just to tell him, never ask him how he's doing. I just say, just thinking about you, because you don't ask how somebody's doing, not that. So that's what I do with him. And then because of this anniversary, this 1 year anniversary, I posted some pictures that were special to me. And I spoke about, remembering her and also thinking of her, the last time I saw her. And then I reached out to the two sons and I just said something about, thinking about her. I sent those pictures that was with me and her. And I just said, remembering her, a beautiful person, whatever. I did not hear from the older son, but I heard from the younger son. And he's in a very different spot than I thought I was trying to reach out. Everybody is different, as we talk about all the time. And he really made it clear that I need to leave him alone. Don't send anything, don't talk about anything. He's not in a spot to do that. He said, talk about her with anybody else, with your family, whatever, but not with me. Yeah,
So
I'm
I
not.
think, Lisa, I think that what we're talking about here is that people have to understand that all family dynamics, family and friends, any category that your loved one falls into, they're all different, right? We've all experienced different things in our lives. What may be open and kind to you, and you were coming from a really kind place in your heart, that you just wanted to open the door and connect. And not even that, and I think for the sons especially, to acknowledge that the remembrance, the remembrance that you didn't forget. And most times, find with myself and with other people, most times that's appreciated. When I used to go to different gatherings and then somebody would bring up my husband and tell a story I like that
Me
because you
too.
weren't forgetting about him.
That's
He
right.
was on their mind too.
Right.
And I know you feel that way.
Yeah.
This could be a combination of two things. Maybe they don't feel this way, and
No.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about today. You can have your own feelings and your own boundaries when it comes to other people saying anything in your life.
I
You happen to be on the other side of the coin.
okay. But here's the thing. Number one, we're well-being and we're not going to take this personally, even though I feel badly, but we're not going to take this personally because this is his journey. And we do talk about that. And so his father and his brother and him will navigate and do whatever they do in their own time. And I now feel like I need to really pull back and not, you know, um, you know, he said,
He was
um,
clear.
yeah, yeah,
He was clear.
it was
So
clear. He was
let's not
clear.
keep talking about the little things that
Yeah,
he
yeah,
said or she
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
because,
yeah.
that was a private conversation
That's
between the
right.
two of you.
So I want to be left alone. I want to
Right.
live my life and talk
But
about
now, before we go beyond understanding the dynamics here, I'm also curious to know, in in your shoes, say, okay, so in the outsider's shoes, the one that isn't grieving the same way as the immediate family member, how how do you know how far to step back? Do you step back too much? Are you breaking, you're putting walls up, and are you allowing that to hurt your feelings to where you won't have a relationship with him moving forward? Or is that something that you can be understanding and know your boundaries and be mature about it? And those are all questions, for the people that are interjecting, because you never thought you would be in this kind of situation, given the things that we talk about all the
Yeah.
time,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. I see myself stepping away for a long time and not having much of a relationship. Now, we
See,
did
but
the only
no, but
reason.
this is why I had a feeling you were going to say that. And this is why you can't do that,
No,
Lisa.
but I'm going to tell you something, Susan.
What?
I'd be afraid of saying anything else that he will not like.
But you
Okay?
understand better than anybody
I
else,
do. I do.
okay? Because we do these videos and
Yep.
all the topics that we've
Yep.
talked about,
Yep.
you understand that time has a way of changing everything.
Yes.
So the way he's feeling today, 6 months later, may not be the way he's feeling 1 year from now or 2 years from now. And depending on where your relationship was, maybe you'll ease back into wherever that relationship with, well, if you love these people.
No,
And if you love them,
the truth was it really went through. And again, your dynamics change when the family member dies. The truth is that it really went through the mother. This is the mother's,
she
son.
was the
Also.
glue.
So she was the glue.
And you were
So,
just trying to be kind and step in for their mom, letting
now
them
just
know you care.
just saying how much, this
Yeah,
loved her. Yeah.
yeah. So
All right.
I don't think you were wrong, only because we did discuss this before the video started, and I wanted to be clear and I wanted to be sure, just so everybody knows, that you weren't constantly calling and sending messages and sending photos and sending the YouTube link
Yeah.
and sending your books, and
Yeah, no.
you were not doing that at all. It was a one-time thing that you said that, so guess what? That's okay, and they're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah, they are.
They're
That's their
allowed to
grief.
feel that
Yep.
way,
That's their journey. Yep.
right? And
Yep.
and so
Yep.
for the person on the other end, you have to accept it. You have to realize it, that dynamics change sometimes, maybe not for the long haul, but temporarily, and go with the flow and surrender to it, and approach it gracefully. If
But
you
it is
keep
sad.
pushing,
It is sad.
it is sad. It's sad, but now let's get back to the topic that we
Yep.
came here
Yep.
for.
Yep. Yep.
It's sadder for him. It's sadder for the person who's grieving, because you don't, I'm going to just say, make up a scenario here. Okay. Your one comment maybe could have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but maybe many people are reaching out to him.
True.
Maybe he's seeing many videos. Maybe
True.
every time he turns around, he has another memory and he can't cope and he
True.
can't deal with it anymore. And your one little comment now made him explode.
True. You're right.
You
You're
don't
right.
know what he's going through. So we have to be understanding of that. And that's what we really came here to talk about today. The person that's grieving, how do you, in a nice way, and and honestly, even though you may be feeling very, very hurt, Lisa, and I get that. I'm like so sensitive. I feel hurt. If you told me you couldn't do our show today, I would feel hurt. I'm very sensitive, right? But how how do you take that, or how does the grieving person try and say that as kindly as possible? Okay, which I believe he did, because you told me the exact verbiage that he
Yep.
used.
Yep.
Okay, so he was just being very clear to you.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe that's a good thing. Instead of beating around the bush and putting up with things he doesn't want to hear about right now and thinking of a memory which he doesn't want to do,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
He was very clear in his words to you.
Yep.
Now, say this didn't happen to you, okay? And we were talking about this subject. And we had a caller and somebody called in and said something about this and said, well, they said to me, not to call, not to bring it up. They don't want to talk about it right now. You would respond differently.
That's right.
You're responding with emotion right now
That's
because
right.
it happened to you.
Correct.
And you're bringing all of your baggage into it, okay, from your past and your losses and how you, Lisa, love to celebrate life because you are one of the most positive people I know, right? But you don't know what he
Right.
put up with this morning, what he
That's
put
right.
up with last night.
That's true.
Maybe he fell out of bed and he's crying because she's not on the other side of the bed. And then all of a sudden he gets your message, or, we
True.
don't know.
True. We don't know. We don't know any of the
And you would
circumstances.
say that to another
I
person. You would
would. I
say to
absolutely
put your
would.
emotions aside. They were respectful in how he responded
Yes. Yes.
to you. So
Yes.
you acknowledge that, right?
But I'm also grieving my own cousin. And so my own feelings were in there too.
Of
Okay.
course. And that's it. So do you understand why
Yeah.
we're talking about this topic today? Understanding the dynamics,
Yeah.
because everybody brings their own pain and hurt into the situation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you are desperately grieving your friend and you want to be a help to his family. Okay. Your friend or your
My
cousin or
cousin. She's my
both.
cousin. She's my
I'm
cousin.
sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yes. So you're desperately grieving your cousin, and I get it. I lost my first cousin I was babies with, and he and I would talk on the phone at night for hours when our spouses were in bed or whatever. We loved each other and we laughed. We'd talk about the memories of being in Nana's house on the weekends, how she'd come up the hallway with the flashlight and yell at us. Whoever wasn't sleeping had to put her socks on her in the morning. That was her big thing. So we talk about and laugh about these funny memories. I had a different relationship with him than maybe, you do this, his spouse. And you want to be there to comfort him because you were there to comfort her. But again, those dynamics are different, right? You didn't have that relationship with them. You didn't sit on the next to them on the couch and hug them and kiss them and hold their hand and talk about past memories and different things. So the dynamics are different here.
Yeah.
The dynamics. So that's the first topic we wanted to. Another thing about dynamics, though, I just want to bring light to this, is that there are some generational differences as well.
Yeah.
So as meaningful as an old soul and filled with experience people that you and I may be, okay, if it's going to or coming from a person who's 30 or 40 years younger than you, we have to allow for that as well,
That's
because
true.
they're thinking differently. They haven't had the same experiences that we
That's
have,
true.
right?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You also mentioned, by the way, cultural and generational. The cultural thing is interesting too. Must be different cultures that do different things or feel different ways and stuff. You have to respect that as well.
And I bet you they do it so much better, Lisa. I had told you in one of our videos, I read the book about Ireland and My
Yes.
Father's Wake, it
Yes.
was called,
Yes.
and how they do it so differently over
Yeah.
there. And I bet you that it's our country
I
who
know.
has this
Yes.
toxic disconnection.
Yeah.
And, we're not as loving and embraceful people as I'd like us to be.
Me too.
Um,
Me too.
and I think maybe in some other parts of the world they are. They
Mhm.
have that going on for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another
Yes. That's
story for another
yes.
show,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's true. So
Yeah.
um, know that all of these differences, anything could have happened again to your cousins.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Anything could have happened this week
Sure.
that's destroying them. And you don't know about that. So
I
here
don't.
you want to interject your kind self, and it's not working.
Yeah. Not working.
So, okay, so now you're the person grieving, okay, and going through all this stuff. Sorry to turn the tables again on this
Nope.
story, but it is from
Important.
both ends.
It's
And it was
important.
so good that we started with that story, Lisa, because people have to know that we're going to be on the different both ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum
That's right.
at points in our lives, right? So
That's right.
setting healthy boundaries is an important way to keep the connection, right? To keep the relationship without ever having to say what Lisa just said. I doubt there'll be a future. I doubt, because, and understandably so, because you're afraid. You're afraid. I wouldn't want to say the wrong thing. And I have a problem in my life where you don't have to tell me twice. You don't have to tell me twice about anything.
Yeah.
Lisa, you said I don't really want to do this video anymore. Well, I wouldn't be on next week at noon. You know what I mean? Because I take things like that. I don't want to be told twice and be,
Yeah.
so I get it. I get it that you're looking at those words and saying, okay, you don't have to tell me twice, I'm backing off, but this
Yep.
is a little bit different topic.
Mhm.
But just be gentle with it. Maybe respond in such a way, I get it, and I love you, and we'll talk in the future. However that may be. But it's important to honor, these different unique relationships that we have when we both love a person. We think we should be grieving in the same way, but we absolutely don't. That's a load of baloney, right? Everybody grieves in their own way.
Yes.
But you have to understand also and identify when it can become harmful rather than helpful.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so his words, you took his words as being harmful to you, being mean, okay? But it really wasn't. It
Really
really
was.
wasn't. If you ask me, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But you do have to identify, because there are situations, I believe, that can be harmful,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
What if, okay, you have a friend and they keep coming to your house every day because no, this is the best for you. And they come in and they clean your house and they cook for you and it doesn't stop. It can get to a point where that's a little bit
Right. And they
hurtful
think,
for
but they think,
your,
sure, but they think they're helping. And
you're
they,
being a nice, kind friend.
that's right. So now it's up to you to say, I really appreciate everything you're doing, but I really need you to stop.
Now look at that on the reverse.
Yep.
That's exactly what your cousin's husband just did to you.
Yeah.
So we're much too sensitive as human beings.
Well, listen, if there are,
It's
oh no,
too
because
personal. You can't go there.
the truth is that we also, look, if you give the example of the friend who comes in, maybe that friend was very close to the friend who died, or to the husband who died, or his spouse or whatever. So they're going through their own thing too. So that's the
Right.
thing. Number one, we're all grieving differently. And number two, our needs are different when we're each trying to process it, which is why, by the way, family members, in my second book, I wrote about how everybody is doing it differently, and how one
Right.
person is angry because the sister is doing, has decided to date or whatever, and the brother has decided to do something, move or whatever. Then, oh, well, wait a minute. I thought mom said we were going to do this, or, there's different, different
And
style.
there's different levels
Yes, there
of
are.
every style,
Yes. Yes.
right? So the thing that you and I can agree on here, Lisa, is it doesn't become, it becomes harmful. If it becomes harmful for the person that you see grieving. In other words, you did have somebody in your life at one point, Lisa, where it was becoming harmful. Many, many years have passed by, and they're still not 5, 10, 15 years. They're still not jumping out of that place yet. They still would like to take their own lives and still put a blanket over their head. That becomes a harmful situation on the
It's
part of
not, and it
the
might not even
person.
be that many years, but you can see some people who get into such depths that you sink in with them. Okay. They're just gonna, I don't know how you call it, a leech. I don't know what, you just can't do it anymore. Can't do it anymore. And I left that because that was a really harmful situation.
Oh God, but
Mhm.
this is another video for another
It
day.
is.
It
It
was a
is. And we did
harmful
it.
situation. Should
Yes.
you have stepped back
That's right. That's
and
right.
allowed it to be a harmful situation? Maybe you should not have stepped back and found other ways or other people to do something.
Mhm.
Okay, but now we're flip-flopping here,
No,
going
no,
from the
no, no. Let's
grieving
stay with the
person
grieving person.
to the person who's
Just trying to help.
overstepping their
Yes, yes,
boundaries.
yes, yes.
So a couple of things that I noticed when I was doing a little bit of research about ways to respond to the person is in kind. And as hard as that may be, because you're grieving and you feel like you don't have to be the kind person. They should know how I feel, and you don't care how they feel. But responding in kind can really save your relationship at some point. And I mean using the word I, right? When you're talking about yourself. So maybe saying, instead of saying, no, don't call me anymore. Don't come by. I'm good enough on my own. Like, instead of having even that tone, I appreciate your concern. I need to process this in my own way. And I almost, not flipping again, I'm flipping again back and forth because this is confusing today. But
Yes,
I feel like that's how he responded to.
yes, yes, yes. That's right.
So that you have to give him credit for, because he knows his feelings right now at this moment. He needs to process in his own way. And Lisa, can you respect that?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So
Yes.
it's all in the way you do it. And I don't think he did it in a bad way, but I think a lot of people can do it in a bad way, because all you're worried about is your own emotions right now and your own feelings. And you could care less about your neighbor or your friend or your sister or your uncle. You could care less. Let the world end.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
you could care less. But Lisa and I promise you that with time, we're not giving you a time limit, but with time, that gets a little lighter. All right. So when it does, do you want to have all these disconnected relationships in your life because you were just big, mean, and bad?
Mhm.
I understand you're trying to help, but right now I need some space to figure this out. Right? That's a little better than not answering their call,
Yeah.
ignoring
If
them.
yeah,
And
if they're able to say that. Some people just can't.
I know,
Okay, can't.
I know. But there's just so many ways to approach each side. If you're the one grieving and you have toxic people in your life, and for the person who's trying to be kind and considerate and help. And then you also have to think about the intelligence level or the maturity level in some people. Um, if somebody told me that and they were clear and I knew that I had to back off and have that boundary, I could do that. And I could talk about my sister because she's my sister. She's 10 years younger than me, but she's gone. She's passed away. So I can talk about her right now. She was much more mature than me. Okay. So if I were to say that to her, or anybody said that to her, she would react in the opposite way. She'd be buying stuff and going over there anyway and saying the wrong things that shouldn't be said that day, just because that's her personality.
Mhm.
And I know that you all know people like that in your lives. We all have a few that don't have couth. What's the word I'm looking for?
Introspection,
They
intuition.
just don't
Yeah,
care because,
yeah.
again, they're caring about the shoes that they're in and they think that they're helping, so oh my gosh, all of these dynamics are so
It's
crazy.
very complicated. It
And the
is.
communication
Yeah,
is tough.
it is tough.
When you can't communicate with some people on the level that you're at. Um, finding the right words is not always easy.
I think just even the burden. People mean well. We all know that people mean well.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really hard to explain to people, you know, this isn't the right time. I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. So you feel like you have to answer to people. And so now I'm telling you the other part of what you can feel.
But that's what makes me feel like the grieving person who's just lost a loved one has a little bit more leeway. Has a little bit more leeway. The other person has to be just a little bit more understanding,
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yeah.
right? And allow them that, because, however, what if you're the friend who's never experienced all this loss in their lives,
Sure.
right? And you just don't know.
Sure. That's right. That's
You
right.
don't know. Um,
Yeah.
you're all going to grieve in a different way. Maybe, for instance, with my husband, his sister grieved differently. His sister's a couple years younger than him, and I was having my own hard time. I couldn't deal with anybody else's grief. Don't ask me to hold you and support you. And
Mhm.
yes, when we got together and we talked about him, that was the part that I loved.
Yeah.
I loved sharing that. But she chose to grieve in a completely different way than I did. And I won't say anything because there are a lot of family members out
Sure.
there,
Sure.
and most of them know what I mean. But um, she just got a little wild and crazy in her grief. So she chose to grieve in a different way than I did. And I honestly didn't care. No, because I'm worried about my own self and my
Sure.
own grief.
Sure.
And when you're grieving like that, it's such a heavy weight on your shoulders. I talk about that all the time, that you don't care.
Yeah.
You just don't care what other people think. Let them grieve the way they want to. And, you just don't care. And that's okay right away, right?
You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to get through each day. That's
That's right.
basically it. That's true.
That's right. And we're all going to do it a little bit differently.
That's true. It's true.
So again, there's support groups, there's counseling, there's other friends that you can reach out to and talk to them about this. Um, it's, there's a lot of things that you could do if you have the strength and the energy. But I would say, even if you can, and you feel like I did when I first lost my spouse, because I know that feeling firsthand. Oh, and I don't wish it on anybody, but yet people are going through it by the thousands every single day, Lisa, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest suggestions that I could suggest for the grieving person, again, and we talk about this all the time, is self-care. But self-care, especially when there are family disagreements.
Mm.
When family members aren't thinking the way you are, didn't have the same nobody had the same relationship
Well,
as you did with this person.
sure.
Nobody, nowhere, no how. That was from The Wizard of Oz, right? The
Yeah.
lions.
Yeah.
But
That's
nobody does, so nobody will understand. So you just have to know to take care of yourself through all of that, through all of the arguments that people want to provoke, through all of you need to know your boundaries. It's time for you to go now. I need to lay down. You need to have a few key phrases that maybe you can put out there just to have your own space, and concentrate on nice feel good things like some breathing exercises. And that's simple. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out, and sit and do this and put some soft music on in the background, and take breaks from this time period. Take breaks, whether it's, no, whether it's,
mm, mm,
whether, excuse me, no,
mm.
whether it's,
What kind of breaks? What time of
I'm
break?
sorry, somebody
Okay.
was knocking at my door.
Okay.
Um, so take breaks as far as taking a nap, walking out of the room, disengaging from the situation, leaving the space that you're in, or having the person leave the space that they're in with you. You know, it's just, when emotions are running high, nothing can really change that until you step away.
But I do want to say
Sometimes we
something
need to
because
do it.
I have a cousin who lost her spouse in February. It's pretty recent. And I've known her for many, many years. She's only maybe 2 years older than me. And I check in with her once in a while. And she absolutely says to me, "Thanks so much for thinking of me and calling." So it shows how different people are.
It
And you don't
does.
want to just stop. You want to try and understand and read people and accept people. But
Right.
if I carried one thing over to the other, then I'd be, missing out on she and I. So it's very complicated because everybody is so different.
And you need to go through your grief, definitely. You have to go through that grief, but maybe in a little bit different way by not including the other people right now in your own way, right? In your own way. And we know how to do that. We talk about that all the time, celebrating your relationship and remembering your relationship with her. And maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea for you right now to pick up a blank journal and
mm,
just write a couple letters to her when
that's
it
nice.
bothers you and when you're thinking about it at night. Not that you're going to put it in the mail, it'll
Sure,
be in your
sure,
journal,
sure.
but write about those feelings. And I mean, I think it'll help give you some more clarity um, on your end, on your perspective. For the person grieving, journal also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Journal why you want to be alone right now. Journal some affirmations, something that makes you feel good, whether that be scripture or from another spiritual book or anything that you can get your hands on, especially audio. And
yeah,
nowadays, everybody has smart TVs and there's YouTube on there.
yeah,
And you can go on, you can find yourself some good, positive affirmations. You don't have to hear somebody preaching to you like we talk in this video, sharing our stories, but you can find more simple things like affirmations, like just feel good music and sit in your chair and breathe and just keep breathing in and out because I'm telling you, after doing that for 15 minutes, your whole body relaxes and your brain relaxes. It's really, really helpful and it's good for your health. So if you don't do anything else, just do some breathing and take care of yourself, regardless. So we've talked about so many things today, Lisa, right? And we didn't mean to inundate you and bounce back and forth and flip-flop from the grieving person, but this was a perfect example, I think, today, Lisa, with this instance in your life
just happened. So
with your own,
very fresh.
right, with your own family. And I think it was perfect to let people know both sides of the coin,
Yeah,
right? Because originally we were just going to talk about the grieving person side
yeah,
of the coin, but I'm glad that we're able to educate a little bit on that side of the coin
yeah.
without confusing you too much.
That's
I
true.
didn't mean
No,
to
it's
do
true.
that.
People will identify, I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that, but I think that it is important to know that, and we just have to deal the best we can. I mean,
Yes,
we're human beings. We're here
that's
for
right.
such a short time on earth, 100 years if we're lucky. Most people are not.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
And
right.
then we go back
Yes.
home somewhere. We go into the stars and we go back home. So it's important to just try and appreciate the time that we have here. Let it go, surrender things. Um, don't don't get caught up in that toxicity of going back and forth. He said, she said, but I feel this way, but you feel that way. And but
Yes. Doesn't go
stop,
anywhere. It's not productive.
stop.
I know.
Bring some quiet into your life and just be more understanding and more accepting. And, you
Well
know,
said.
just don't ever forget, though, I think the point of our video today is that nobody's walked in your shoes.
That's right.
You
That's
and
true.
you haven't walked in their shoes,
That's true.
right? And we'll never understand each other's journey as much as we'd like to. So your grief is unique as your relationship was with the person that you've lost. And while we can appreciate other people's concerns, ultimately, this is your path to walk. So be gentle with yourself, um, and be gentle with those who care about you,
Yeah.
even though and even when they don't quite get it right,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. That's right. That's right.
So on that note, I
Okay.
did want to
Yep.
mention
Okay.
another video that we have upcoming. And it was the suggestions that I thought sent you earlier, Lisa. I emailed you. Do you remember what that was about?
No. I'm sorry.
Have you checked your emails
Lost in
today?
this topic. Yeah, I cannot. I cannot.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
But it's going to be another month.
I
So
know Lisa's
I'm
away.
going
Lisa's
on
away for
vacation.
for a
Yeah.
few weeks now.
It's time to see
Um,
family and go on vacation. Yeah.
But I just want to wait 2 seconds. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm really curious and I'm going to do a little more research on it, but I really want to, your relationships not only change, different dynamics, right? But your perspectives and your feelings on the way that you view life can change. And that's huge.
It is huge.
That's huge. So for one person who love to go out and be in big friend groups and go out to dinner all the time and be a very social person, okay? For the next person, they want life quiet.
That's right. That's right.
They want life quiet, and they even if it's been many years, okay, don't want to do those things anymore. And maybe find pleasure and joy in sitting in their back garden and reading a book
Yep.
and listening to music because they just want more peace
Yeah.
after so much
Yeah.
heartache in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that up to let everybody know today that the feelings will lighten, but the changes may stay.
Sure.
There are certain changes that may stay, but those changes may be for the better too. And that's okay. That's okay. How you see the world and how you feel in the world. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about those changes in an upcoming video.
Sounds good. Sounds
So
good.
I want to thank you very
All
much for
right.
joining us
Well,
today. I feel like it was a little bit of a whirlwind, and I hope we didn't
no, I think
confuse
that
you
people
too
will
much.
identify in both ways. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially sharing today, Lisa. I know you love sharing stories,
I do.
and I didn't mean to cut you,
No.
but
No.
we have to be protective
Sure,
of the
of
people
course.
in our
Of
spaces as
course.
well.
Of course.
And I appreciate you sharing because it did help us see both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you.
you.
And
Hey.
I'll see you when you
Yep.
get back from vacation.
Yep. All right. Take good care.
All right. Bye,
Okay.
everybody. Happy
Bye.
spring.
Yep. Happy spring.